Right. Bom dia. Bem-vindo. Obrigado por ter vindo aqui hoje. You understand me, right? Yeah. You know, it's impossible to continue in Portuguese because I'm sorry, I do speak a lot of languages, but Portuguese is still very, and then you will not understand what I say. But I hope you will understand what I say because maybe you learned English. So we need languages to understand each other. Actually, it's pretty strange, right? Why do we all speak different languages? Where did that come from? I mean, if you want to build something, especially internationally, it's good that you understand each other, right? But how did we get there? I have a long story, but also a short story. I will skip this first because I mixed up the slides. Sorry. This one needs to go first because where did it all originate? Yeah, a long time ago. Somebody said, okay, people are getting too good at building, so let's give them a challenge. We'll let people all speak different languages. And ever since, we are still trying to overcome this because, you know, if we don't understand each other, we make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, it costs money. So if you're interested to see why we're here, I have a short story and a long story. But the short story is this. I hope you understand it because we worked very hard on it, and also courtesy of Annabella from AGF, who helped us translate. And it should. No. Yeah. So what you saw is fresh as it can be, is fish from the sea here in Portugal. We just uploaded the latest version today, this morning, with the help of my colleague Benjamin. This is something that we're thinking about, how to support ATIM in Portugal by explaining the story. So we can't do 1 hour and a half sessions everywhere, and sometimes people have less time. So this is something that we're working on, and we would like to take it further. So we're very interested in your feedback. I saw 6,000 aulas. Aulas is maybe not the right word. So we need to work on that. So, but yeah, looking forward to your feedback. But it tells the story in a quick way. So why are we here? Why are we here? We are here because maybe we still have an elephant dancing in the room that is about, we are making mistakes in the construction industry, and we want to minimize the mistakes. We want to help the environment, and these are all very good ambitions, but we will not succeed if we don't get the right data. And we can do a lot. There's a lot of technology. So, yeah, if you analyze it, you start looking for it on the internet. There's so many stories that you find. I mean, Berlin Airport, everybody knows that story, I think. And if you look further in the reports, everybody's complaining about the lack of communication and technology. Maybe we can help you with that. And a lot of things, KPIs that are maybe not looked after and maybe are very important for your profitability is how much of your turnover is credit invoiced at the end of the month. And why? Why is important. But the transport cost of return shipments, or maybe replacement shipments that have to make up for the mistakes. The hours spent by customer service on credit notes and return shipments, instead of helping to increase sales. Maybe I've not properly introduced myself. I'm community manager of ATIM International, but I have a life in front of that. I started out in customer service. I got all the complaints working for a manufacturer in HVAC materials. And then I worked in supplying data to our customers. And I got fed up with everybody has a different spreadsheet that they want to fill in, and I have to continuously repeat the same data. A lot of work, a lot of inefficiency, and there is also a lot of misunderstandings in data. If you want to do EDI, electronic data interchange, there's a lot of technical protocols and software for it, but most of these projects fail because on one side they have product data, and on the other hand they have product data, but it's not the same. And you first have to synchronize that, so you have to start communicating. You can do that by hand, but then you need a lot of people, then you end up losing money. But what if you can automate that? So that's what we're here to talk about. But if you want to automate that, you have to use standards, and you have to unify data. And if you talk about construction, I mean, if I talk to my relatives, so what do you do for a living? I say, I categorize products. And if you have a web shop, you want to buy a TV or a refrigerator. A TV is not a refrigerator. Everybody says, okay, I understand. And if you want to buy a TV, you want to have 4K color. The size of the screen is important. If you want to buy a fridge, energy label is important, and you want to know the volume of the freezing capacity. But if you want to build a wall in construction, there are so many ways to build a wall. You can do a brick wall, interior, non-loading, non-load bearing, or it has to be load bearing. It has to be of concrete. You can do a framed wall. And in the building process, you also need the right tools, the right safety equipment, the right site supplies to succeed. And if you peel down the onion, let's go for a framed wall. So you can choose materials for frame. Normally you do aluminum profiles, but you could also use wood. In the US, there's a lot of wood used in framing. But what kind of board do you put on the frame? You can go for gypsum plasterboard, multiplex plywood, fiber cement board or fiber cement siding, whatever you want to call it. Glued wood panel, laminated panel, or wood fiber board, or HDF, MDF, OSB board, or chipboard, actually the same. Did you notice? For every product, I could at least invent 2 names. And I didn't invent it myself, I just found it on the internet. So what are we talking about? Which product are we talking about? It's becoming quite sometimes complicated, because for a simple building block, a stone to build a wall, there's so many names out there. And we all mean the same, but not exactly the same. And that's where it goes wrong. And that's where you need properties. But we have to do something about this. And we can. We can use a classification system for that. But anybody can categorize products, right? It's not easy. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. Start today in your company, make categories and properties, and then do your administration right. You get your information from your suppliers or from your own R&D department if you're a manufacturer. But what happens then in collaborating through the value chain? Let's take, for instance, this simple sand and lime brick. That's what company A calls it. It has a product item ID. It has a width, a water absorption property, and a compressive strength property. The width is in inches. Water absorption is 1%. Percent of what? I don't know, but it's according to EN 772-21. You can look it up. Or 20 Newton per square millimeters. But now you could also buy the same product from brand B. Which one should I choose? Are they actually the same? Do they also fulfill the specifications that I need? But brand B calls it calcium silicate stone. Is that the same as sand and lime brick? I'm not sure. It has a width of 254 millimeters. It uses the designated code IW2, which is from a Dutch regulation for water absorption. And they use CS20 from the same norm, but they interpret it differently. And you know, in their line of business, everybody uses that type of coding, and they all understand what it is. But if you export it to another country, do they still understand? So how can you compare this? Or how can you make sure that computers compare this? It's hard. It's impossible. And, you know, this is how these things happen. It's not a Portuguese, it's something that went wrong in Holland, in a parking lot in Eindhoven at the airport. Brand new parking lot. Went down. And the end conclusion was these concrete slabs filled with plastic spheres, just to make it lighter and cheaper, of course. They had a maximum span of 10 meters, but somebody overlooked that or did not have that information. That's how important this is. And everybody is now in panic. The planet, we have to save the planet. We have to do a digital product passports, which I will talk about later. But, you know, simple data, that has to come first. Because if we can't do this, this is going to happen, for sure. Well, it's not going to help, let's say. But we have also good news. We have BIM modeling that's going to help us. We all collaborate in one digital model. And then we compare all the plans from all the different contractors. And then we see where are the clashes, where do we have to collaborate more. Does it all fit in the room? Great. In the end, if you imagine how many products are drawn, can you imagine how many products? I mean, only the electrical side, or the construction side, or the plumbing side, is thousands of products, thousands of SKUs that have to be ordered from this model. It's great that you draw this, and this drawing is fantastic. It's cool, it's sexy, but underlying most important part of BIM modeling is BIM objects that consists of data. So 95% of this project is about data. And if you want to make this work, you need unified data. And the data has to come from the manufacturer because they know their products best, right? If it's about technical stuff, their R&D is the best person that can tell you what is the actual correct data. So collaboration to eliminate mistakes, and then you can work on optimization to save the planet, for instance. But you also have e-commerce, yeah? So the interaction between end customers, wholesale, and suppliers, which is speeding up. I mean, you can order anything from your phone these days, but all this, you can set up a system, but in order to make it work, it needs content, right? Proper content. If you put in garbage, you get garbage, you know. So very important. But what if we were able to bring these two worlds together? So you design something, you list all the products you need, and in the end, it's all about data. You have a list of what you want to order, where you want to order it, if it's in stock, if not in stock, what's the available alternative. That's what you can do. But then you need to exchange data through the entire value chain. It's not just one company stepping up and saying we're doing a better job than somebody else. No, it's a joint responsibility. And only together you can make this work. But you need unified data. Why? This is a bit of the story of my previous career. If you're working for a manufacturer and you have these wholesalers that want data and they all want something else. They want a different format. They want, so all these different colors are different ways of producing data and sending it across. Then here are just like a bunch of maybe 15, 20 entities. And I had to draw 265 lines with different colors. Can you imagine how much work that is? How much work is being done, like people looking at a screen or in a catalog and then typing in it in a database, while somebody else already did the work. I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of inefficiency, actually. Also, maybe a cause of many misunderstandings. because if you mistype anything, you know, it's there forever and it's wrong. Who's going to tell you that it's wrong? Your customer, because something broke or something was not delivered at the right spot at the right time. So yeah, important. So you need something like that. But there's a solution. We can all agree we need to unify data. That means we need to use a standard. We provide that standard together with you, because the entire staff of ATIM International is here. Benjamin, Marc, me. We have the board, but we are not the experts of all your products. You have to tell us. We have to do it together. And that's why participation of branch organizations like APCMC is very important, because then you get the commitment and then you can do it together. So you need to make ATIM classification and overall data quality, of course, a standard for the entire industry. Then you can make steps. And how does that look, that solution? It's very simple. We have defined categories, which we call classes, not aulas. Sorry for that. And we add synonyms. So internal wall brick can be a brick, masonry stone, calcium silicate stone, gypsum block, or cellular concrete block. We define the material, but for the rest, nominal width, water absorption, and average normalized compressive strength. They're all features for all these kinds of blocks. They're all the same. So we need to define the features, the model, and then all the manufacturers do is fill their data according to this structure. So everybody has the same. And now you can compare it, because we're all talking millimeters, not inches, millimeters, centimeters, you know. And you can use harmonized standards, of course. Yeah? But what about Portuguese language? You know, what is this guy talking? He doesn't even speak Portuguese, but I don't. But people from APCMC and from Jeff, who are working together in the ATIM Portugal project, they do. They know the business, so they know exactly the right jargon that needs to be put in the Portuguese translation. And everything within the ATIM model is coded. A class name is coded, a feature name is coded, even choice options of features, they're coded, units are coded, everything's coded, so it's not only human readable, but also machine to machine readable, and we do both. So here the feature material, we have all the translations. And it's not because I speak a lot of languages, but together within the ATIM community, we speak a lot of languages. And now you can classify something in Portuguese, translate it to codes, send it over to Magnus, our president, who's living in Finland. He can translate it back into Finnish. That's how it works, because the translation is already made. It's validated translation, it's verified, and now you can send it across anywhere. That means that if you have a supplier in Portugal that is exporting products all over the world, can classify it in Portuguese, but everybody can use it. And that will save a lot of work. But you're also working on a data platform, I was informed well. Check data or data check? Data check. Yeah, that's a very, very, very good use case. It saves you a lot of time, because as a manufacturer, if you have new products or you have an updated program, you upload it once to the platform. The central data pool, they can send out push notifications like supplier A has updated their data. You can then download from all the suppliers that did updates. You can track, get the data in at once. I mean, that saves a lot of work, a lot of phone calls, a lot of dealing with conversions of spreadsheets and stuff, just by using standards. And it also helps, because the customers of your customers, if you're a manufacturer, you sell to the wholesaler, but the contractor is actually needing it. So it's also good to inform them of what what your products are. So they can also use that same data to find out what they can actually buy from you at the wholesaler. Other use cases is to fill your ERP system with article data to order stuff or selling items. You can do BI structures. For instance, all the stone-related products. Maybe you have a category from that. So that's a group of classes, and you can use that to make a selection in your turnover. Of course, work planning. Now you actually know how to find the right product for the job, with the right specifications, on a very simple way by using the filters of ATIM. You could also do a spend analysis. What are you buying? Which products are you buying? Where can you create volume and maybe choose one supplier or two suppliers instead of 6 for the same type of product? And of course, it goes all the way to the BIM world. We're also working together with Building Smart International. Our library is part of the BSDD, Building Smart Data Dictionary. And even we are working on a new technology called modeling classes, where we describe geometry in a standardized way for parametric families. So that's basically you create one 3D object with variable sizes, and the sizes is an ATIM class. And this is the best example, just a construction board. It could be an OSB board, it could be a gypsum plate, but they all have a length, they have a width, they have a thickness, they have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 layers, and they have some edges. So just supply the data. The BIM software industry is building objects standardized that can consume ATIM data, and that's what you get. So now you can change out the products just by changing out the data. And you can link everything within the ATIM format to that object. So that's what we have to offer as ATIM, but who are we? How are we organized? We were founded by Dutch installers. And that's not because they wanted to create great BIM models. That's because they were dealing with very, very inefficient tender procedures. They could not find their way within millions of products. I think you mentioned the same, Johan, at the beginning. That was the first time. They were pulling out their hairs because they were trying to find where can I buy this, and it was never the right product at the right time. That's how it started in the early 90s. So for 30 years, we've been working on this model. So you can try to copy us. Good luck. It took us 30 years with a lot of people. Later on, some other countries joined. And by 2006, a European community was formed. Actually, by 2008, we were founded as an international standard. It's an open standard. We're non-profit. But we do like to get paid by the end of the month, though. So we need some funding, and that is financed by our members. So we have 19 member organizations at the moment representing 21 countries, roughly. It's changing every year. But we are, so we have about 6,000 classes, 20,000 features. We're in 5 technical sectors, construction, but also plumbing, HVAC, electrical, building, tools, hardware and site supplies, and shipbuilding. Shipbuilding is also very interested in this project. As I said, over 30 years of experience, and we're used globally. From our Google Analytics, from our ATIM viewer, where you can access our model online, you can look up stuff. We have analyzed that there are more than 150 countries where people go to our website, and it's used by more than 30,000 individual users. And we are embedded in an uncountable number of software applications simply because we don't know, because it's an open standard. Anybody can download it. But we do get applications for our API on a daily basis. Every time new software companies contact us for access to our database. So the strength of ATIM is not just the model. The model is simple. It's the organization. It's you, all of you. You know, making time to show up here, but also making time to work in our working groups where people from the same industry, wholesalers and manufacturers, talk to each other and say, what kind of data actually do we need? We can standardize it. We can do a suggestion, but I don't know anything about tile glue. Well, I didn't until I managed the working group about that. And the whole world opened up because those product managers, they started talking to each other and they said, well, this is what we need and this needs to be standardized. And that's what we did. And so that's how we work, class by class. With a change request process, very strict. Marc is overseeing that and he's very strict. We don't want any brand names in it. We don't want any redundancy, double names or things that can be explained differently. It has to be clear. There's a very strong process behind it. And the Portuguese industry can simply go to their local ATIM representative. APCMC is that for the construction. And they can help you with making changes. Whenever there's something that you need or you can't find a product, go to APCMC, call them, and they'll help you. And we will help APCMC, and we will make sure that our ATIM model is always up to date. Because simply, R&D departments, they invent new products, they invent new features, so we have to change also. ATIM changes. In the last 2 years, we have, I think, over 3,000 change requests that processed for all these classes. And that's what we do. That's what we organize. We organize this process. And we do that together. And we also have technical committees on an international level, sector-related, where country representatives can take place. So for APCMC, we have good contact with Pedro Meda. I'm not sure if he's paid by you, but he is taking place in those. And we had some great contributions from him. He has a lot of knowledge. Unfortunately, he could not be here today. He had to go to Norway. So, but we are working very closely with him. And there are also a number of large companies that are supporting ATIM in a couple of countries and also want to support us on the international level. So we also give them a special seat in our overall technical committee. And we have a general assembly where we, we have to produce numbers, our finances, We have to produce a strategy that's being presented at the General Assembly every year. And yeah, together we work with a small team to make this process. But as you can see, it's bottom up. It's the people that work with the data that define the data. So, how to support us? The only thing that I can say is make ATIM a solid fundament of your policy and strategy in the digital transition. Become a member. If you're not yet a member, become a member. Support the great work of APCMC. And participate in working groups, because your knowledge is needed for the quality of the model. That's the first part of my presentation. How am I doing? Time? Oh, okay, we're okay. So this is the first question answered, right? The second question was, can you also tell something about the digital product passport? I can, because I have held a presentation about that some time ago. Let's see if I can. As you know, Europe is very active in regulating stuff, especially when it comes to environmentals. What happened? My screen is not showing. Now it has two screens. Then we do it like that. Okay. So the EU is very active, huh? Green Deal, and we all have to be ready for 2050 or 2030. Sometimes it changes. And everybody wants to do that. So everybody is also asking to us, what are you doing for that? What is a digital product passport, and what does it? How does it relate to ATIM? Are you opposite? Is ATIM going to go away because the EU is taking over? That's the common question. So let's dive into that. First of all, we're going to tell something. What is the digital product passport? Why? What? How? When? What is the role of ATIM International? And what role can you play as APCMC members? So hopefully you can answer that, and that's also going to answer the second question by the end. So why is the EU making such a big fuss out of digital product data? Because they want to stop greenwashing. They want to stop this. Because if you want to appear as a company doing great stuff for the environment, it's very easy. You just open up your wallet, and you buy one of these labels, and then your corner of the street is clean, and then great. But if you're honest, if you're all honest to each other, you say, okay, this is not going to help. So the EU said they did this. I took this from their website. I did not make this up. They say 53% of the green claims are actually vague, misleading, or unfounded information. And 40% of the claims have no supporting evidence. And half of all green labels offer weak or non-existent verification. And there are 230 sustainability labels. So it's very complex. It's not helping. So they say, well, this is why we have to make a regulation. So what's their plan? Well, they'll just put in new directives and laws. Last year, the the environmental sustainable products regulation or eco-design sustainable product regulation framework became active, which is replacing the eco-design directive that was already in place. And but that's a framework, like a major law that needs to be worked out into more details. That's taking place right now. And this framework will regulate green public procurement. It will also regulate destruction of unsold customer products, what to do with it, what you should or must do with it. But also it says every product has to have a digital product passport. That is where the panic is coming from. Oh, we have to have a digital product passport. What is it? But it also says the details per product category should be defined in delegated acts. And as we know, they are working on a batteries act larger than 2 kilovolts that is becoming active next year or the year after. And after that, they want to tackle electronics and textiles in automobiles. There are some projects that are trying out stuff like SEERPAS 1 and SEERPAS 2, but they are prototyping, just prototyping. If you want to make this active, you have to have a digital product passport. That is being worked on right now. But they also say environmental claims, very important, must be scientifically proven. If there's no more controversial science than the environmental science at the moment. A lot of debate going on. But they all agree that LCA EPD is the legally acceptable tool. What is LCA EPD? LCA is a life cycle, central life cycle assessment. It's a method for assessing environmental impacts associated with all stages of the life cycle of a product or service. So it's a method, but that is not providing anything. The results of that method is presented in an environmental product declaration. So we have our declaration of performance, certificate of conformity, and there's a new kid in town called the environmental product declaration. And these are based on these LCA methods, and they provide a quantitative basis for comparing the environmental impacts of products and services. And the data that is being required there is, let's say, quite interesting. I'll show you an example of that later. But also there, a lot of debate. How do you compare this data? Because the EU says, we have a framework, this is how you should do it, but the details of the calculation methods, we don't touch it. So you have EPD operators, several ones, and you now end up in discussions like, well, the way you calculate this piece of data is not how we do it, and now you cannot compare it anymore. And there's a lot of debate. Well, when you produce a product in the Netherlands, you export it to Portugal, can you use the same set of data? And other people say, no, maybe not, because you transported it, and that is also adding CO2 to the environment. So how to deal with those problems? Is a small battery or a small pump, for instance, is a small pump better than a large pump? Not in a large system, because the large pump may use less energy than a small pump that has to work all the time. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they are finding out at the moment, but they are also standardizing. And two standards are important. Is the EN 15804, where the content of an EPD is being standardized, and the EN 22057, which is the template structure of an EPD. And then you get something like this. Don't get scared. I don't see consumers making decisions based on these diagrams, but I think in the industry, in our industry, it will make a difference in the end. But just to get used to it, what kind of data are they asking for? The global warming potential in kilograms of CO2 equivalents. How would you calculate that for a heating boiler? I don't know, but we have consultants that can help you with that. So it's not something that you can say, oh, my customer service department can do that on Friday afternoon. It's going to cost big resources to get this data. So what do you do then when you have 10,000 SKUs? Those kind of decisions, and even when there's debate, you have the PEP Eco Passport in France, which is a sort of EPD, but you also have EPD Norway that maybe uses different standards and different methodology. If you're an international company and you have to do business with all these countries and they are all asked for the same data, it's the ATIM story all over again. And on the side, we also have construction products regulation, CPR. Is that something different? No. Don't get scared. It will all support each other. Because the CPR framework is there to say that if you have a declaration of performance, this is how you should do it. And it's the framework act that has a lot of delegated acts where you say, well, if you want to measure water absorption of stones, for instance, there is a EN norm for it, EN 772-21. That's the delegated act, and it's a harmonized standard to make that. But you might also need that in your environmental data. So, now we know all this. What is a digital product passport? Actually, until now, nobody knows, because we're inventing it as we speak. The Joint Technical Committee by Senelec has given the assignment to do that. And some of the people that are in that project group also are part of the ATIM community. I've been asked to do a presentation there also to help them out. And I will also join them in a working group session in September. But the news is just hang back, relax, and wait until they laid out the puzzle. The good news that I hear is it has to be vendor and technology neutral. But it's also very, very hard if you want to make a regulation and you want to standardize things so that everybody can use that in their software. But they're working on a plan. They are also, because they are under time pressure, because, as you know, if we go back, this is already in place. It says it has to have a digital product passport, but nobody knows what it is. So they're in a hurry because this delegated act is becoming to life in 2 years. So they can't wait, and they are seriously considering interoperability with existing classification systems. And I told them, of course, that it's a very, very good choice, because why reinvent the wheel when you already have it? And we have, if you look at our position on environmental data, all these debates on properties, environmental properties, is not our. It's not our line of work. We are not the experts on how to save the environment. We do want to support it, but we cannot be involved in those discussions because we simply cannot add anything to it. We are not the scientists. The scientists, they should come up with what they need, what kind of. So. The EPD, LCA EPD, that's something that we can grab that is has consensus of the world. So, and it has good definitions. So that's something that we can use. But what is our job? Our job is to best standardize it in a digital format. That's what we do. And that's what we already did for other things that came from Europe. For instance, declaration of performance or APREL database with these energy labels. Energy labels is just a feature within the ATIM class, and anybody can use it. So we're quite confident that we can support the digital product passport. And to be honest, if you send out digital information according to the ATIM exchange standards, including ATIM classification, you already have a digital product passport. But it's not defined as one, because we don't know if it is one, because the EU has not finished their work yet. But we're ready for it. That's the good news. And if we're not ready for it, it takes us maybe 3 months to update it. And that's always, if you look at eco-design regulation in luminaires, in the electrical business, there's a lot of eco-design regulation on LED lights. You see that the working groups do their job. They know what regulation becomes effective. They send in a change request, and it's being used in our ATIM model. So we're confident that we're ready for it. But we already have a lot in our standards and models. Because, for example, in the lighting industry, halogen-free according to EN/IEC 60754-1. I have no idea what it says, but a working group and one of us, they have checked it. It's not a fairy tale. This is really practical data, and it's helping. So the working groups are doing their jobs, but you know we can always do better. So your participation is very important. And in our new exchange format that we recently launched, because BMA CAD, which was normally the go-to standard, is an old standard that was developed somewhere in 2005 and did not get any updates. But we were making a lot of updates as a user-defined extension. So there was more user-defined extension than original standard BMA CAD. So that's why we said, well, maybe we have to do something about that. And the choice was made to move away from XML technology and go for the more modern JSON technology, which is a lighter data object. And it also now gives us the freedom to take on the role of the definer of a complete data model for products. So we're doing that, and what we also did is, in that new format, we built in technology to transport this EPD data. So it's already in there. But also the common things like reach rows, ADR, WEE, SDS, SCIP, it's already in that model. We also started the dedicated working group on sustainability and circularity data, because we cannot read all the documents that we are being sent by the European Union. We get thousands of pages of regulations, and that's just too much for us as a small entity. But we have a lot of experts in the industry, so people with function titles like Vice President of Sustainability with large wholesalers, they join us in a working group and they tell us what we need to do, and they advise our technical committees on the next steps. That started, and it's an ongoing process. So again, this is a set of EPD data, a matrix. So you have all these special things like contribution to acidification with a unit, and you have the total number, and you have the numbers per phase in the product life cycle. These numbers we've built a JSON schema for it. It's now part of our standard. If you want, you can transport it from A to B. We'll just have to find somebody who is asking for it and somebody who has the data. But that's not our job. We set the rules, you play the game. So what can you do as APCMC? As I said, there's debate about what needs to be in the EPD and the methods of calculation. You will need to voice your opinion on that. There needs to be a common standard on how to do this. We also need to, of course, adopt ATIM classification and ATIM exchange new as a standard. That will help, because then we can transport this environmental data. And we need to participate in working groups. I cannot say it enough. We cannot make it up. We have to make it up together. Yeah, actively support us and become a member and participate. That's what we can do. That's what you can do. So, and that's my story. I hope it was to your satisfaction. Of course. You can even disagree with me, so that's great. Good question. If I could answer that, I would say the manufacturer, because we held a very interesting workshop this morning with the other association about getting started with ATIM, and I started with who's responsible for what. Product data that is not changing throughout when you send it across. That's always the responsibility of the manufacturer. Please don't let any wholesaler make up data from your product. Be in control. That's what I say. I worked at a manufacturer. I once investigated what they put on their websites and in their catalogs from our products. A lot of mistakes. We have to be in control as a manufacturer, and this digital product passport also needs to be. Good question, because there is a change between, there's a difference between actual product data and your trade item data. The trade item data changes when the product goes from A to B, because a wholesaler can unpack a box of 20, sell it per piece, or they have things in stock or not. They have different pricing structures. So that's all part of the trade item. And that's important, and that's also maybe important for what's happening with the digital product passport. Well, according to the regulation, it's already mandatory when there is a delegated act, but there is no delegated act yet in place. First delegated act will become in place in 26-ish for batteries only. And then they have to start working on electronics. So that will take years. So there's no panic, no rush. And even they have to invent what is actually the digital product passport. What it will look like is that there will be a central register, European register, where you say, this product ID, I would like to have the digital product passport data, and it will send you to a place. And that place can be a server of a large company, but if you're a small company, you cannot provide these endpoints on the internet. Maybe some service provider, like Check Data, can be providing that service for smaller wholesalers. And I think the standardization, especially also ATIM, anybody can use it. Large companies, but also small companies. It creates a level playing field. Yeah. Yeah, and what if you're the importer of a product? You did not produce it, but you're importing it, and you're putting it on the market. So you provide a barcode with it. Does that make you a manufacturer? But you didn't make it because it was made across the world. How does that relate to digital product data or digital product passport data? So there's a lot of challenges about that. Maybe, Frank, may I invite you to tell something about those challenges, because you're also involved in EPD Norway, if I'm not... yeah, Frank Jaknes from ETIM Norway. Yeah. I always try to catch him off guard, but he always manages to save his post. Yeah. Yeah, what we also see in the Netherlands, for instance, they created a law that says when you construct a building, you have to also make an assessment of the environmental cost. So you have an EPD database. So if you're using products that don't have an EPD, we will make one up for you with very high values, and then the manufacturers will be triggered to hire an EPD operator that will create maybe better values. What you see in practice is everybody wants to comply and delivers a report. These are the environmental costs. Good luck with it. We took all the high values from the generic products and good. But this next step will be they'll say, okay, if you have this volume square meters on this area, the maximum environmental cost needs to go down to this level, and then the panic hits, and then you need suppliers that did their homework on that. But what you see in practice, it's very tough to get the market moving. But it's also a challenge when you have 10,000 products. If you're selling electrical products, for instance, or plumbing parts, the number of SKUs can be like that. Do you hire an EPD operator for every SKU? Nobody can pay for that. So there's still something to do. If you're a concrete stone factory, you can easily create one EPD and apply it to all the products.